What's up? Welcome into your Buckeye Rush Hour for Wednesday, June 7th. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're having a good hump day. Get this week about half over with. Now it's just downhill from here. Wait for some people to hop in the chat. You guys drive the show, as you know. Your questions, comments, keep them coming. We'll be getting to those in a moment. I'm going to lay out the topic, and then we're going to get in and answer your questions, comments. I really want to see what you guys think about this jack position, cracker jack. So I'm going to lay it out. Here we go. So, to jack or not to jack? That is the question. So Jim Knowles brings in an impressive track record as a defensive coordinator around the country. You know, came in last year in 2022, about a year and a half ago, had success at Duke. He turned Oklahoma State's defense into one of the best in the country. He said recently, by the time I left Oklahoma State, the jack was almost exclusive. And I knew we wouldn't have that here, but we're built more as a 4-down, and our front's pretty darn good. So he's talking about the D-line with 4 D linemen down. So you don't want to mess with that too much, but I thought they could get up to be a third. So he's talking about a third of the time they would use the jack. He said, and it just didn't happen. We weren't as productive out of it. You have to go with what works. So for much of the season, he was successful. The Buckeye defense improved drastically in one season, but in the big games, defense still let us down. It's just strictly yards and points. We don't have to look too much further. Allowed 45 points, 530 yards to Michigan, 42 points, 533 yards to Georgia. So let's go on and dig into this jack position. The hybrid player that he's the staple of the Jim Knowles defensive scheme. Is successful. It can be. It didn't work out well last year. Knowles typically picks out a player that doesn't fit into a specific position. That's why I didn't understand why they went for Jack Sawyer, who had a position already lined up, at the end. But anyways, he wants players that have athleticism and great football IQ, understanding of the game, and are able to do a little bit of everything. The jack is a hybrid lineman / linebacker. They can also call it the Leo. I don't know why he goes back and forth. Who gives a shit? So anyways, at Oklahoma State, he deployed the Leo / jack as essentially a weak side defensive end who moves around from play to play. On one snap, he might stand up on the line, on the edge. On another, he might line up over the left guard next to a defensive tackle. In some alignments, whoever slotted into that hybrid role could line up as a linebacker between the Will and the Mike. So creating a blocking issue for the offensive line. So it's considered to be both a linebacker and defensive end position, one that requires size, and Jack has that, but also speed. Not sure he had that last year. I heard rumors that he was up over 270 during the season. That doesn't work. You can't be fast at 270. Not too many people are. So anyway, according to Jim Knowles, the Buckeyes used the jack about 15% of the time last year. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Jack Sawyer, who played the jack, had 4.5 sacks, 24 tackles. Like, those stats speak volumes to me. So this spring, Jack Sawyer moved back to the defensive end full time. But Knowles says he's not abandoning the jack. He plans to work with Mitchell Melton and CJ Hicks. We also heard, in the past that Caden Curry is a good fit for that, because he's not quite that 6'5" and above of a typical DN. He's like 6'2", 6'3". So we'll see about that. Right now, all the talk is Mitchell Melton, CJ Hicks at the jack. So Melton had the knee surgery he injured his knee in the 2022 spring game. So he's had a year and a half almost to get back. Hopefully he's healthy. A lot of this really depends on that. Before the injury, they moved him from linebacker to the D line. Then they started experimenting Mitchell Melton with the jack position, and he stood out. He jumped out, and popped off of the practice video. So now Knowles wants to see if Melton is recovered completely, and then CJ Hicks, sophomore linebacker, needs to be on the field, but he's blocked by veterans at his position. So Knowles said about CJ that when directed, he's skilled. He can get from point A to point B quickly. And I think that's something good to look at for CJ in the fall. So, okay, that's fine. But now he's also talked about rotating CJ in at the weak side with Steele. So Knowles also has said, I want to get back to the jack. He just said that over spring. He said, and maybe not even with the whole defense, but I'll be spending time with those two guys, Melton and Hicks in particular, just one-on-one time to help explain to them what I want to accomplish. Because that's a position when fully developed where the guy knows everything about the defense and everything about the calls. So it's more, a lot of it's mental right now, learning the defense entirely, knowing all the calls. That's the key for Melton and for CJ Hicks. So a lot of that one-on-one time with me and the player, or those two players. So that's when I want to go on the field into the defense, even if there are other guys who aren't 100% comfortable, that guy has a full command and he's kind of running around making the calls. So sounds like a middle linebacker to me, kind of quarterback of the defense if he's making the calls. So Knowles realizes that at a place like Ohio State, a position like the jack / Leo / whatever is nice to have and to work towards it. But because of the quality of players at every position, the Buckeyes recruit, it isn't a must have. I don't feel like it's a must have position, So Knowles finished up here. He said, still part of my long-term plan, absolutely, because I think we could get the best combo player in the country when we target one. We're Ohio State. That's a position that people don't have. We can target the best one and build towards that and work towards it. So question for the chat. What do you guys think about the jack position? Is this necessary in order to have a high functioning top 5 defense, in your opinion? Let me see who's in the chat. Hola, Billy. What's up, man? Good to see you. Daniel, go Bucks. Daniel says, yeah, I think Melton would have had a good year last year. Yeah, I agree. Billy says that Knowles should have a better sense when and when not to use the jack this year. Yeah, you would think so. The Buckeyes improved drastically last year without the jack. Like he said, supposedly they only used it 15% of the time. So the other 85% of the time, what was going on with Jack Sawyer? Was he lining up at DN? I don't understand how the jack position really negatively affected Jack Sawyer so much. I accept the fact that it did happen. I'm surprised that just 15% of the time he just was out of, not capable of making plays. It's kind of confusing to me. But what do you guys think? Do you think the jack is necessary? See, I think the most important thing that I read when doing some research on this was the quality of players the Buckeyes recruit at linebacker, at DN, even D tackle, safeties. I don't know if you need this jack position. I could see it being necessary at an Oklahoma State or a Duke where you're getting, 3 stars. Duke, you might be getting 2 stars. Fuck, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Billy says that he heard it said that Arvell Reese might be a good jack candidate in a year or two. Yeah, I could see that. He's got good size. But the question is, what happens if the jack position doesn't work out again this year? That's the issue. I don't know. I would like to see a season with the Knowles scheme and no Jack/Leo. See, what does that look like? I'm very interested in that, and let's let everybody play, their normal roles. I feel like I know they have also talked about Joshua Mickens, the defensive line recruit from Indianapolis. They've talked about him as the jack position as well. So he's a little bit shorter, kind of like a Caden Curry, 6'2", 6'3", something like that. So a guy that's not quite big enough maybe to be a D end, but doesn't weigh enough to be a D tackle. He has to be fast on his feet, though. You can't have a slow guy out there lined up next to a linebacker, So, yeah, I'm not completely sold on this jack position. I think it like I've said a million times, it just fucked up Jack Sawyer for the year. That little bit that they used it seemed to throw him out of his game somehow. I don't know. So I would rather see a world where Jack Sawyer is 100% comfortable and at the same position all time, that would be my preference. But so what do you guys think? You think that Jack is really a necessity? I mean, I think this defense can be top 5 without the jack position. And what's weird is that the jack was supposed to come in and be more of a run stopper. It's supposed to be a run killer because it creates blocking issues for the offensive line. The guy like takes gaps that aren't really there. So I don't know. It didn't seem to work against Michigan and Georgia a little bit. They didn't run the ball too well against us, but Billy says that it comes down to if Knowles senses he has a player the right size, speed, and intelligence to play it. If not, don't use it. Yeah. I'm fine with that logic. I have no problem with that. It seems like he's trying to shoehorn it in there when maybe it's not necessary, maybe, if it doesn't really like need to be done, let's see how the defense does without it. Maybe the first 3 games of the season. I know they're kind of easy games, but even 4 games, give that Notre Dame game a try. That's a close to worthy opponent. That's a kind of a matchup game. They usually run the ball well, so let's see if they can move the ball and against our defense straight up. Sometimes I think coaches overthink shit, and they start adding these bells and whistles and things that maybe aren't necessary. They like just overthink shit and get in there and tinker too much. That was Greg Schiano's problem. He didn't have a position group to coach, so he was just constantly tinkering with the defense, and the defense was fine. He just kept fucking with it, and then guys are getting out of position. They didn't know what the call was, or what to do on a certain call. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think this may be a case of the mad scientist defensive coordinator maybe going a little too far, going too mad. So, yeah. If it gets CJ Hicks on the field, though, I can't be against it. I'm walking both sides of the line here, kind of. But if it gets CJ on the field, I have to be for that. As you know, if you listen to the linebacker rankings yesterday, CJ was my number 2 ranked linebacker on the Buckeye linebacker group. So I think the more he gets on the field, the better this defense can be. Even though Steele's good, and Billy, I know that you think Steele can be better in this system. I think that CJ has the higher ceiling, and even though he may make a wrong read or may take a wrong step at times, he has the athleticism, speed, the talent to make up for that at times, as opposed to a guy like a Laurinaitis who had to have the right step, had to anticipate the play perfectly and diagnose it from the jump. Maybe CJ, because of his athleticism, doesn't need to be that instinctual yet. It would be great if he learns that and develops that. But I think getting CJ on the field is key. And I don't know, do you mess with him if you're trying to rotate him in with Steel Chambers, and you give him that will linebacker assignment? Then you try and add him to the jack position, add that into the mix. Do you mess with a kid's head and confuse him by giving him too many assignments? Like the quote was back in the spring, he said that CJ can get from point A to point B quickly, when he's given that, when directed, he has the ability to get there quickly. But, if you put too much on his plate, is that a problem? It sounds like it could be a challenge for the guy. Talk too much. So, yeah. Mitchell Melton, I am interested in seeing him on the field. He's got great size and speed. What's he at now? I just read his 24/7 ranking the other day for the linebackers show. So right now, Ohio State has him listed at 6'3", 245. That's pretty freaking good size. That seems like a much better body type than Jack Sawyer at 265, 270. That just doesn't make sense right off the top, putting Jack Sawyer out there at the jack position. So I like to see Melton. Let's compare the two. What's CJ Hicks here? His size. He is 6'3", 225. So you got a difference of 20 pounds here. Interesting. So it seems like Hicks would be more athletic, a little faster, maybe use more. Seems like Melton would be better against the run just from his size alone, I would think. But yeah, that's a tough call. CJ obviously was the #1 ranked player in Ohio coming out of his class in 2022, the #2 linebacker in his class. So yeah, that's a tough call, which one you send in there. I just, all the hype around CJ Hicks, and all he did was play special teams last year, didn't play a single snap on defense. They really gotta find a way to get him on the field and not give him too many assignments, from what it sounds to me. Not more than he can handle, and James Laurinaitis being his position coach definitely helps. He can learn those anticipation techniques and watching film, reading his keys, so the development of Hicks is going to be interesting this year. We can actually see him play defensive snaps, see where he's at, see the good tape, the bad tape, and where he needs to improve. So, yeah. So right now, I don't know. I'm still on the fence with the jack position. It's great if it gets CJ on the field, like I said, but I don't know. If it's just another thing to do just to do it, I don't see the upside. Again, it was invented to be a run stopper, to squash a run game, but I don't know, it didn't seem to work at times last year, right? So, but the defense got better overall. That's most important. So I'm all for anything that makes the defense better, like a top 5 defense. So be interesting to see what happens here. So anything else you guys want to talk about over the next few minutes? I'm going to get out of here at 5, but I wanted to give you guys in the chat time to throw something at me. Does Bama or Georgia use a jack equivalent? Billy asks. Oh, PC, what's up, man? You're late. It's all right. Appreciate you stopping by, though. Does Bama or Georgia use a jack equivalent? No, they run more of a 3-4, 3 down lineman and kind of a walkout outside linebacker. So no, they don't really have a jack that floats around like that. PC says if the proof isn't there within 15 minutes of the course starting, can we leave with full credit? The prof? Sure, you can leave us full credit. Yeah. Daniel says, my one thing with Jim Knowles, if you run cover zero, don't cover the wideouts with safeties. That's a legit point. Yeah. So some of the past defense is a legit point. Definitely. I got some rankings coming up. I'm going to do the cornerback position rankings and then the safety position rankings. And what else? Yeah, we'll talk some recruiting tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day of Ohio State's camps starting. So high school kids can come sign up for the camp and get coached by the Buckeye staff. So good time for some young guys to get to impress the Buckeye staff. And well, there'll be a few guys there that the Buckeyes are looking at. Big official visits coming in this weekend. I've got a list of, about a dozen guys maybe coming in this weekend. So that'll probably start on Friday. PC says, I don't think we should ever run cover zero unless we're up by 30 in the fourth quarter. I'm not a fan. I agree. Definitely not third and 16, third down and 16 to go. Maybe you just drop back and make JJ McCarthy beat you with his arm. Not fall down trying to make a tackle. So yeah, big recruiting coming up. We're going to talk some Sam Williams-Dixon tomorrow. What the hell's going on there? He took a surprise visit, official visit, by the way, to Kentucky on Monday. Vince Marrow, excellent recruiter for Kentucky, loves to steal those Ohio guys and take them south of the border. So he could tell kids some things, maybe that things that maybe aren't quite true. So, but he gets kids, he gets recruits. What else are we talking? Oh, Nigel Smith had some comments after his visit last weekend. Sounded like everything went really well. It was his 5th visit to Columbus. So I remember he posted some photos of his hotel room and all the stuff. They like put cards in there made by look like they're made by kids or something, telling them to come to Ohio State and shit. So what else? Recruiting wise, we got some guys dropping their top 5s, top 7s. Dakota Fields, the DB from California, committed to USC. So, yeah, that's about it. I've got another safety in the 2024 class you guys might want to check out. Should be interesting there. And we got a couple DBs from Orlando that are coming up Thursday. And is it Thursday or Friday? I have to double check that. So we'll see what's up there. But all right, I'm going to log off. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Go Bucks.